involved in the blockchain industry since the very early days and spent years working with governments, businesses, organizations around the world on digital assets and emerging technologies. He's also the author of the newly released book, so Web4, The Age of Autonomous Intelligence, and where he explores what happens when AI and blockchain start working together. We are going to talk about the future of the internet, the role of AI, why decentralization matters more than ever, and what are all of this means for investors, governments, and everyday people. So joining us right now is Andy Lian. Andy, welcome to Roxham TV. It's great to have you with us.
Hi, good to see you. Good to see you.
Yeah, so Andy, I have got a lot of questions to pick your brain on because you are the professional. You have worked with governments, major corporations, and one of the world's largest crypto exchanges. So what's something the public completely misunderstood about how these large organizations think about global and AI?
I think many of these organizations, they if you are looking at it from an exchange perspective, they want users, right? AI is just a narrative to them, right? But if you talk to investors, for example, right? If you talk to some of my friends in San Francisco, right? They see that AI is actually one of the main staple, in the current economy, and everything should be connected to AI, right? So so again, that goes back to the gist of my book, right? I believe in crypto because it's the future money. I believe in decentralization, and I do believe that AI should be decentralized too, because if not, any of these big companies that we can think of right now can weaponize AI, and that is going to create a lot more pain for everybody, right? So I think AI is here to stay. Crypto is definitely here to stay, and it's good to see both converge together.
Yes, I like that. So we're certainly going to have to do a entire section to talk about your book. But what interests me the most is your background because you work with governments around the world and you work with one of the biggest exchanges being Bybit. So I want to ask every single of the experience because like for viewers out there, like including myself, I have no idea how to picture like advising a government around the world is. So let's actually break down the question. I want to talk about the Bybit role because you spent some time leading government relations at Bybit. What does that role exactly do? Like, do you have to call the government to talk about the business with Bybit, or what I could expect in that role?
Sure. So back then with Bybit is that there were some regulatory issues with the South Korean government, right? So it's a lot easier if you get someone who understands the government to build that relationship and to solve the problem versus just getting a lawyer in, try to, force your way through, right? So back in Bybit days, it's more about building relationship with government, right? So South Korea is one of them, right? And and of course, if you look at the things that I do, when I was with Bybit, I also give advice to Mongolia, right? So I look at their productivity side of things, give them some good advice on how they could move on from just being a country looking at some technology into some really useful case studies that they could use to push crypto into the nation, right? So if you see this from a corporate standpoint, it is more about relationship building with the government, right? But if you look at it from the government standpoint, it is about letting the government understand, right? But out of all this role, whether it's with the with a crypto exchange or whether it's with an international organization, the most fun thing to do is to convince the government what they should do next. Because most times when they approach myself, they roughly have an idea what they want to do, right? But it might not be what I want them to do because if I go along with their suggestion and sometimes it's just too fast. For example, they just want to uh, legalize crypto, right? But then their payment structure is not there. They have not even tried to control some of these crypto companies within their country. They do not get a very good feel on how exactly it should work, right? So normally for me is to try and debunk it, tell them what they should really do first, convince them that this is the path, and then ask them to move along with it, right? I think that is the most fun part when you talk to government, right? Um, and again, it depends on what kind of government, right? Some government they are richer, some government they have a bigger tech focus. Some government are more concerned about protecting their traditional finance space. So navigating with the government is really a very tiring role because at one side you need to make the core minister, who is in charge, maybe most likely the finance minister, to understand what are the pros and cons. But at the same time, because there will be a pool of those enterprise like blockchain company, crypto company at the side, just like what you see right now, there's lobbying in US and so forth. There are also those companies in some of this country, but not maybe through a lobbying process, but they want to get into the sandbox, they want to get insights, they want to make sure that they can survive. So sometimes, talking to both sides is, to me, is the most fun thing, man. You're finding the balance and you're finding what can be done so that the crypto industry can move to the next level in this region and not
Yeah, that's
breaking
very,
all the
very
relationship.
interesting. Very interesting for sure. Like working with governments at the same time with on the behalf of the crypto exchanges. So so for the experience that you work with Mongolian government, like what are these stuff that you suggested actually go through? And then is there any funny moments that you saw? Okay, the government suggest and what they wanted is basically would be so harmful for cryptocurrency as a whole, and then that it actually did not go through. Is there any actual example you could share with us?
I don't want to name countries, but I have a very good example in an Asia country where they want to regulate decentralized networks probably 4 years ago, right? So they, of course, the idea is for them to map up all the wallets, right? So everything in that region, they know exactly what's happening. But them trying to regulate decentralized network, to me, I think is a joke. So I told them very specifically, you can track all the wallets, you know, you can get the service from this big crypto company, no problem, right? But ask yourself, what is the final goal? Are you thinking of tracking the money so to collect more tax, or are you trying to stop uh, uh, illicit money from flowing in and out from the country, right? So of course the government then say that, oh, I want both. I said, okay, I think it's a tough ball, man. All you really need to do is to control the inflow and outflow of your own fiat, so that people get more restriction when you do the on ramp or off ramp. You can only track until there. If you want to track individual networks, it's tough. They say, oh, I can send a lawyer's letter to Ethereum Foundation and do an audit. I was like, oh, I say it's not easy, to do that. You can definitely send them an email or send them a lawyer's love letter, but nothing much can be done because it's decentralized, right? So countries take a long time to really understand how decentralization works because to a certain extent, um, they kept thinking that we are not decentralized. For some countries, they would think that we are not decentralized. Of course, I told them, yes, we are not decentralized. I'm not happy with that. But this does not mean that you can control the whole network, right? It's not decentralized maybe because of how some of the early founders allocate themselves with power and token, right? And maybe some of the code, you can really stop them, like USDT can stop the money. But if you want to control the network and audit the network, that is impossible, right? So
Yeah, it doesn't work.
yeah, so but now I think they understand, right? After such a long time, but but all these things takes time, and to be honest, it's fun, but it's also not fun because you will be stuck in that situation for a long time, years, and yeah. So yeah, I like to see progress, right? So getting stuck,
Yeah, eventually get burnt out for
yeah.
sure by the government. But you mentioned the reason why you were at Bybit because they had some issue with South Korea. And I also happen to know that you work with Hyundai, so the blockchain division, like Hyundai being the Korean car manufacturer. So what surprised you the most about how a TradFi, so a traditional global company, approaches blockchain innovation? Is there something you learned that is so different from Bybit or governments around the
Oh,
world?
I think big chaebols, big companies. I like them, especially Hyundai. Some of the people there. I like them because they're innovative, right? They dare to try, right? When all the rest of the car brands are just thinking about what blockchain is about, most of them are worried about the technology. The South Korean, you know, they deploy it, right? They want to make it happen. They invest into blockchain companies. They want to be innovative, right? So that innovation part keeps me really happy, really really happy. And I think they are
Yeah,
one of the few,
especially,
in Asia
yeah.
that dare to push.
Yeah, like South Korean is very, I would say I come across quite a lot of them because I went to like some of the South Korean crypto events before. So like the vibe that I'm getting from the general public is that they are very degen and very innovative for sure. If they have $100, they're willing to bet like $112 into some very degen stuff. Is that the vibe that you're getting when you talk to South Korea large institutions as well?
Um, I think the risk appetite is definitely higher compared to um, you know some other countries, right? So I think the plus point is risk appetite is a bit higher. They know what they're getting themselves into. Of course, there's always a more gambler-like environment in South Korea. Um, but ultimately, those that are really genuine, they are trying to drive innovation. So I think it's a super big win-win for everybody, right? Oh, and of course, if you are just looking at the big companies, this is how I felt. But if you look at the retail, mostly are gamblers, and they are willing to try and gamble and see whether they make it or fail, right? Make it big or nothing. That kind of mentality has always been in a lot of my friends in South Korea. That's how they that's how they operate.
Yeah, I mean, I have experienced a little bit of that as well, but like it's another story. We'll maybe share that after the interview. So like you're very well experienced in the Web3 world, but recently you wrote a book called Web4. So that really caught my attention. So the title is Web4, The Age of Autonomous Intelligence. Like for people hearing the term for the first time, what exactly is Web4? Could you break it down for us?
Okay. So Web4 is a term that I often use to talk about real decentralization, right? Real decentralization met using AI. So you could say that it's an AI plus blockchain product or AI plus blockchain era, right? So AI will be the brain, blockchain will be the spine to secure everything together, right? So that is the main gist of it. The word Web4, is a very strange thing, right? Why I came out with a book like that and what exactly happened, I think that is something that I really need to say. So the first time I wrote about Web4 was 2021, right? I think back then I'm not sure whether there's anybody talking about it. I'm just purely complaining because damn, our place is not decentralized because we invest in projects from the back end. We understand how the governance network work. We understand how the coding work. And I would tell myself, damn, it's not decentralized, right? So I started to talk about it 2021, first time. 2023, first time I went on the stage to do a single keynote speech on Web4, 2023. Back then, during that period of time, if you Google Web4 on Google, my name will come up at the top. because I don't believe there's many people talking about it, right? So I started to write about articles. I started to see how AI and blockchain should work together, how they could get together to form this very nice marriage. I contributed articles to like India Times for a little bit more than a year, purely just pushing out use cases on how AI and blockchain can work together. It's not just about trading, right? It's about getting into the system, how they work with each other. So to me, it has always been a passion project, So eventually, I wrote the book just to share some of my thoughts. Not an easy read,
So
man.
yeah, so here's how I understand Web4 is that like Web3 to you is not decentralized enough. So you think like adding AI in the recipe would make it more decentralized. But like AI right now is extremely centralized, and especially all the LLMs are created by all the large institutions. So how does that combination would work? Could you break it down in more details?
Okay, so if you look at the angle of Web3, right? Um, I dare agree that many people would agree that it's not decentralized, right? It's okay. It is decentralized. I'm sorry. So from a Web3 perspective, most of us would agree that it's not decentralized, right? So that one, there's no need to talk about it. So in order for it to be more decentralized, we need to reduce the human beings' involvement. So AI can come in, as part of the consensus mechanism, as part of the tokenomics rewards mechanism. AI can come in, right? Actually, I had a space today with my friend this morning, Hong Kong time. But if you look at the AI space, then you ask yourself, do you feel safe having one or two or three big companies controlling the whole AI space? I don't think so, right? So
Sure not.
if you look at some of the podcasts, for example, if you look at All In podcasts, or like I said, I talked to friends in San Francisco, I talked to the memory, the AI guys who are in Taiwan and in South Korea. They they all have the same sentiments. I think number one, selling hardware, no problem. AI open source, good to have, right? But AI should also be decentralized. So that fits to the narrative of the Web4 as well, right? If you believe that AI should not be controlled by one or two big power, then it should be decentralized. It should be controlled by the people, by the community, and that's how we get something more fair and balanced, right? So
But I'll push back a little bit because
sure.
AI is extremely centralized right now. How
Mm,
do you achieve that to all of us will get decentralized AI? Because like AI is basically being trained by human. You put the data by human. There's a phrase that garbage in, garbage out. So there is still a centralized nature to AI, right?
mm. So if you look at my book, there's an architecture model that I look into, right? If you are talking about just pure LLMs, right? Okay, yeah, it's a very centralized, right? Everything is collated by that few player. But what I really want to do is to work on Web4 from a crypto perspective, right? So you just look at the blockchain right now is not decentralized, right? AI comes in as a form of a mechanism, maybe from the simplest way to just explain this, right? So AI comes in as a consensus model, as part of the big consensus model. Instead of a human being take 90% of the power, AI can take 60%, human takes 40%, right? Human as in the community and so forth, not the CEO, right? So we could set up a model such that during the collection of data model, right, AI can find out what is wrong, what are the issues, right? They collect the data, be the brain, sort out all those issues, vote against themselves, and vote against the community to see what is right, what is wrong, what should be done. Again, AI would have a more weightage, and then the decision making process. So this is collection is by consensus. The decision making process is also by consensus. So again, AI and the human architects, I call ourselves architects, will come together, look at the problem, what should be solved, Let's agree together. So it become like a more like a AI DAO, right? Not just a human DAO where now I have more money, I buy more tokens, I got everything, right? So the AI will come in as a brain to make sure that things can be balanced out, check and balance, right? Then this just this morning the conversation. So one of the guys say that then what about the AI side? Are you talking about building a new LLM, right? Or what? I said no, we will use the existing frontier models because I look at this from a Web3 perspective. So I want that chain to be decentralized first, right? For now, there's no need to build new LLMs. I could always build agents around all the LLMs, integrate and collate the data from all the frontier model, and at the end, use one of the agent to integrate, collate all the data, act as the brain, talk about the data collection, and then talk about the decision making consensus using the AI agent that we have trained, right? So I'm not saying that it's going to change the whole landscape, but eventually it has to be decentralized. The AI power that you see should come from all the community members who have maybe a GPU or TPU. Everyone can just contribute, right? Contribute the computing power, contribute the calculation power right in the beginning, so that everything is taken in a very fair and community-like uh, structure to keep it fair for everyone to use. That's just a very um, top level explanation. But of course
Yeah.
we can go to the architects how the different layers going to interact. It's just going to be boring, man. To be honest.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for breaking down for us, by the way. So, like, if Web4 succeeds, like, could you give us some examples just to picture how everyday people like you and me could interact with Web4 instead of Web3? Is there any actual use cases?
I think in my book I talk about healthcare, right? So instead of you monitoring yourself, right, you go and take measurements and so forth. What I would really assume in the future is you wear your own IoT devices. They keep track of your health, right? Connect yourself to an AI environment, automate everything, right? What do you need to eat? What is your ideal weight? When you need to see a doctor? What is happening to you? Everything will be collated together. The AI become like a concierge to make sure that your health is being taken care of. Why is it in a Web4 environment? Because the Web4 environment gives agents automated and give them more power, to run your life, right? And the agents will tell you what to do, when to see a doctor, like I've mentioned, what you should do next, in your health. All your medical data can be collated by the agent and store it on chain, right? So everything will be done in a very automated manner. Right now, you look at the LLMs that you see right now, most of them are just talking about productivity, right? Oh, I'm going to write an article. I'm going to get the social media agent to help me, this and that. But if you are in a fully autonomous environment, the AI agent in a controlled environment, in a Web4 environment, will take care of all your health needs, A to Z. That's it, right? And everything is in that controlled environment. I think
Yeah.
that could be one example. Yeah.
Yeah, that reminded me of some news that I saw last week is that NVIDIA, basically there is a startup that they're doing and then they're trying to, in a way, decentralize data center because building a data center from scratch is very expensive and it takes a very time consuming. What they did is that they have this node instead which could be built in your backyard. So in all the American households to basically contribute a data center. Like, I'm not sure if you heard of this news before, or are you a big fan of what NVIDIA is doing?
So I see a couple of US companies doing very similar stuff, right? They also share their electricity, right? They share their GPU power. I think that's part and parcel of how decentralization works, right? Everything is now distributed and not just concentrated on one or two power source or one or two data center. Everyone is part of the data, right? So, like I said, not just Jensen, not just Elon, because Jensen is building a lot of different GPU utility. Elon, with his home and solar panel, they are doing off-grid power. So all of them are trying to be decentralized, right? Or maybe the other word to use is to be more distributed, self-sustaining. Um, I think that they are building the same future. It's just maybe the words that they are using is a little bit different, right? But we are just trying to decentralize things, from the grid.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So, speaking of decentralization nature in AI, because we know the world is getting towards not just LM that you type your request from the chatbot, but AI agents actually pushing that button and doing that task on your behalf. So, like, my question is, like, we know the futures are heading to a swarm of AI agents working together. So when these AI agents they interact with each other, there's some sort of payments involved, right? Do you think it's going to be stablecoin or some other cryptocurrency?
I say this openly. If AI is really that smart, they will come out with their own currency. Why do they need to use what we have in Web3, right? So I strongly believe that if AI is going to be that um, really smart being, they will start their own currency, right? Of course,
Doesn't it scare you though?
not it will not be scary, but you just imagine, right? Now you're using Hong Kong dollar, I'm using Singapore dollar, and then some other joker is using some maybe Zimbabwe dollar, for example. It's just different forms of currency, right? So if AI is really smart enough, I believe that they will create their own currency, but I think they will still use some stable coin or use some cryptocurrency as well. But I believe they will come up with their own. So maybe out of the top 10 cryptocurrency next time, you will see one that is just AI created themselves. That's it, right? I think that should be quite fun. There are proof of electricity, proof of computation. Yeah, it's a lot better than proof of stake, man, which is pretty bullshit in my opinion.
That sounds more like Terminator than fun though. Like, I mean, maybe I watched too much Black Mirror. So can we, where are we going from AI? Is that like unlimited power from here? What are human beings going to be in this Mother Earth, right?
We need to embrace AI, right? So instead of seeing us as as a byproduct, "Oh, we are going to be jobless soon. Think about how you can reposition yourself, right? Instead of being a developer, can you be now the AI developer leader, right? You monitor the AI, right? So instead of you coding, can you monitor the AI, to make sure that they are not doing anything bad? Instead of you becoming a designer, right? Can you become a prompter, right? So I think we need to learn how to embrace AI. It's definitely going to come, right? What is your role, right? If you still want to be stuck at your comfort zone, then don't complain about it, right? If you want to try AI, step by step from a chatbot to an agent to automate your tasks, to automate your life, to get AI to earn money for you, then you got to start somewhere, right? So embrace it. That should be the key. In more developed countries, it's funny to see that most people are not very much embracing it. Like in some countries, they would expect the government to tell them what they should do next. I think that is a screwed up mentality, right? If you have the ability, if you know exactly what you want from AI, talk to the AI. I talk to AI a lot more than I talk to real human being nowadays because they can answer my
Yeah, I do
question.
the same.
Yeah, it's really bad. Yeah, but because they can answer my question, I absorb that knowledge. I get an answer. That's it, right? I like talking to them because they can give me smart replies. But of course, they are not always 100% correct, right? If you don't mind, tonight before you sleep, Jamie, quarrel with the AI. Quarrel and try to reason with him or her. It's a fun process, right? After a while, you realize that AI is just like your other half. After telling them the same shit for 1 hour, they will give in. You try. It's quite fun. They will give in. They will tell you a different story, but try it. Everyone should just try it. You should not just hear from us. Just try it. It's funny.
So it sounds like we can't put a stop to AI right now. And speaking of can't putting a stop, we have the AI IPO swarm. So we know 2026, three of the largest AI companies have been SpaceX, Anthropic, and also OpenAI. They're going on a IPO right now. So what's your take on these IPOs? Do you think it's overhyped a little bit, or are we going to see a crash maybe a day or 2 days after the IPO, or you think they're higher to go?
Oh, okay, just my own personal take, right? Because I speak to friends in US and I talk to all the different bankers and so forth. I think on the very first day of trading, it should go up first. Yeah, on the very first day of trading, it should go up first. But in a longer time frame, I don't think it's going to do well, right? Because you can see that investors are going to unlock, right? The whole global money supply is also not in the most favorable state, right? If you look at actual people, retail people with money, I think is getting far and few. So I would expect first day surging over a period of 6 to 12 months. I think we will see it go down to less than $1 trillion. I think.
Why 6 to 12 months though? Why so precise?
You need some time for investors to unlock, investors to sell. You also need to see, because in the very, very beginning, they will be included in the NASDAQ 100, right? So a lot of these funds, mutual funds, government funds, retirement fund, everything will just swarm in, to buy. So it really depends on the mathematics, right? How much inflow are we talking about? What price did they buy it in, right? Then you can determine whether in a slightly longer period, like a 12 months period, what's going to happen, right? So it's all boils down to numbers, right? So at the beginning, my gut feel is it should go up. For how long? I really don't know. Sorry, Gemmy.
So could I understand as maybe 2027, there is a chance that the whole AI bubble getting too big and investors should really consider taking profit. Michael Berry has been right again, prove everyone to be an idiot. Do you think there is a chance, or it's very hard to predict where how high S&P 500 and Nasdaq could go?
I think the bubble is definitely there, right? Right now we are just in the very beginning of a series of big IPOs upcoming, right? I think OpenAI also filed their S1 confidentially, if I'm not wrong, a few days ago. I think the bubble will definitely come, right? So for retail guys who are really into AI, and then they really want to buy the stock, I think they should be really careful, right? Otherwise, just bet on the kingpin of the AI, bet on them, but hold it for at least 5 to 10 years. That is the only strategy. I would not want to buy in at the beginning because I don't believe the price is good. I would revisit that in about 6 to 12 months time to see if my hypothesis of it going down actually comes. If it comes, I would really consider buying in, right? Because AI, if we believe AI is the future, and if that maybe company A or company B is going to be like the kingpin of AI, then buying it and waiting it for 5, 10 years if you have enough cash is a pretty good deal, honestly. Than buying any other IPO stock that comes 6 or 12 months down the road, because the initial hype is with that few companies. That's it. And and I think you should be correct. First day should be surging. First week should do very well, but after which is really going to be very subjective, definitely.
That's very interesting take. So for sure, we're going to go back to this interview and let's see if the prediction from Andy Lian is correct then. There is also an argument for AI bubble because I'm sure a lot of us will agree that the bubble is getting bigger and bigger. A lot of people are drawing ties to what happened back in the 1990s. We have the internet bubble. Like as you mentioned, like internet is a real thing, just like AI is a real technology to stay. And I'm very long-term bullish on AI as well. But what happened in the 1990s during the internet bubble is that internet, of course, it is a real technology to stay. Like even today we are using internet, but then 99% of these stocks crashed. So what's your take basically on that? Like, would you say there's a similar tie to what happened in the 1990s? Or because like another argument that people are saying is that the American government, so the US government can't afford for the AI bubble to burst. Because like basically the entire net worth of the US government, they put their bet on AI only. Do you think that is valid or basically the market is a free market, so they will do whatever they like?
I think history always rhymes, right? So first of all, when we talk about bubble, the first thing that we look at is the high valuation, right? So if you look at the current IPO, okay, because they are very well funded, okay, I think the valuation is high. But if you go to the market, as a VC, for example, everybody's project is all hyped up, right? Valuation is really high, right? So I think because of the high valuation and the value doesn't really match the valuation, there will be definitely a bubble, right? The big IPO, whether they are profitable or not profitable, I'm not sure in the longer run, but there's still a bubble if you are looking at this from a very short time frame. The other problem that we see in the dot com days and now, which is very similar, is that there's always a circulating finance, right? What I'm saying is that the same dollar is being recycled. For example, Nvidia were to invest in their companies, in some of these companies, and then buy back the Nvidia's product, right? So it's always a circulating, recycling. Um, I personally think that at one point, if the amount invested is too big for what I've talked about, the valuation, then the bubble will straight away happen, right? Because the value and the ROI is actually very closely linked, right? So if there's a lack of immediate ROI or lack of an immediate narrative to see the technology progress to the next stage, then the bubble will definitely come, and it will just be the same as the dot-com days where many of the companies got wiped out. We will see the same, definitely, you know.
So viewers of Roxham TV for sure need to be aware of what they're getting into because like all these AI really hypey narrative, it sounds very fancy until it doesn't. So we talk about Web3 and Web4 rather. So we talk about Web4 being AI and blockchain coming together. And as for smaller guys or maybe viewers watching Roxham TV today, is there any advice you could offer, Andy? So you could offer to the viewers of Roxham TV, like utilizing Web4 what you author in the book, is there any opportunities that you see for smaller guys we could do right now?
I think if you're talking about crypto, AI, and so forth, there are always opportunity for investment, right? Investment, yeah, not the kind of pump and dumps, quick buy, quick sell. If you're if you are really looking at a good investment, try to find the top guy in each of the categories. For example, if you are in the crypto space, eyeball Bitcoin, right? Because it's the biggest in terms of market cap, widely recognized. Buy some of those, I think it should be fairly fairly okay. Of course not now because I think the price is still going to go down. If the AI stock is going to go down, if there's an AI bubble that is coming, then Bitcoin will not be spared, right? So watch out for Bitcoin. Find a nice, comfortable spot that you are able to get in. Buy some. Just keep it. I think that should not go wrong. Yeah, unless a
So
quantum computing can crack Satoshi's wallet or something. Right? If not, it's okay. I think.
I do want to get your take onto the whole Bitcoin where Bitcoin is going because like as you mentioned, Bitcoin is going kind of nowhere. Last time I checked, it was 62K somewhere around that. But you also mentioned there is a chance that Bitcoin could go lower. So is there any time frame that you're watching? Because the 4-year cycle guy, they are saying that October 2026 is going to be the cycle bottom. But like what you just told me, if AI turns out to be the bubble and bubble happen to burst, do you think that timeline will stretch to be a little bit longer until we see the final cycle bottom of Bitcoin?
It's if you look at the use of diminishing calculation, I think this time round BTC's bottom should be about 44,000 thereabout. We talk about 65% drop, right? So I think in the previous cycles it drops from 85, right, and then another one is 75, the previous one. I think this one should drop about 65, right? If you just based on pure formula, right? But if you look at the different buy and sell, where are the resistance and so forth, is also about there, about 40 something would be a good bottom. When that is going to happen, I think it will start to happen very, very soon with the first IPO, right? So we still need to get through the IPOs, the three major ones, or at least maybe three or four major ones, work up, right? Then we need to know what is the US strategy for the oil, because the energy crisis is still a very big thing. Are they still going to continue with the war, right? If they are not going to continue, okay. But ultimately, you still have to see money supply, right? Are, are, are they going to drop the stimulus check? Maybe. How big is the stimulus check? You know, we have to see all these things because right now there is no money, in my opinion. If you're talking about just Bitcoin, I see that there's insufficient interest, not enough money, so it should drop. So I don't see the reason why it should go up. Last 3 months you can still say that it's liquidity hunting, right? But ever since what Saylor did with the 32 Bitcoin, the sentiments has gone down to shit level. So I don't know the time frame, but it should happen. The super bottom should happen this year, no matter what. I think, then after which, if they decided to print money, steamy checks comes in, war solved, energy, oil price go back to normal, then perhaps Q2 next year you can see slightly better results. If not, there's no real reason why Bitcoin should pump. What's pumping it? No reason. Right. So this year should be the bottom, I hope. You know.
I agree with you. Like, there's simply no liquidity in both Bitcoin and the crypto market. Because, like, we just talk about the AI IPO, and the reason why we have been spending such a long segment to talk about that is that, in a way, these AI narratives are sucking liquidity away from both Bitcoin and crypto. Like, we are seeing a narrative that people are selling their Bitcoin holdings or crypto holdings just to get into some SpaceX IPO or pre-IPO. So that is what we witnessed so far. So you also tease out another thought about Bitcoin a little bit. So you mentioned quantum computing. I do want to get your take about that. Do you think there's any truth to it, or there's just like um, another FUD piece, just like the FUD piece for China? It happened like every single month in the bear market. What's your take on the quantum computer?
Um, Quantum is very real, honestly, right? If you can have a kick-ass quantum computing super processor, and then now with AI able to make wonders, I think I think it's not far at all. It will happen. It will definitely happen. It's just a time frame, right? Is it going to happen in the next 2 years? Is it going to happen in the next 5 years? I think it's going to happen soon. I think that there's still a 2 years time frame, right? You just look at it this way, right? Right now, this Claude, they have their this what was it called? Is it Matos, right? The one that you could really, crack things up. Very soon, perhaps in the next 1 month or so, the Chinese model will have the same capability, right? And it's a lot cheaper, right? Same capability, a lot cheaper means that there will be a lot more hacking, a lot more people trying to come together to compute stuff and so forth. Maybe even before the quantum days, with all the excessive AI combined together, that can break some stuff already. Whether it can beat Bitcoin encryption, I'm not a cryptographer, but I think from a theory perspective, it should be possible, right? You just imagine, now they could find all the different vulnerabilities in your coding, right? Attack it, get all the agents to come together. Then why not I just get 10,000 or 20,000, 50,000 agents, right? Using the latest AI, gather all the biggest computing power, plus because China's electricity is cheap, the AI model reasoning is good. Use that perhaps even before the quantum kicks in, we could already break some of this cryptocurrency stuff. So I'm keeping myself very neutral on that, because technology changes very fast. And I think it's a good thing, just crack it. Let's find something better. Why not? I'm okay.
That being said, though, because you just wrote a book about Web4, like based on what you just told me about quantum, if we fast forward to 2030 or somewhere around that, basically in the future, how do you envision that? Like Web4, is it still going to be a part of that play, or going to be something completely you can't predict right now?
I can't predict. It could be a Web 5 or something, right? Because the 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 thing that I try to solve with Web 4 is to get things more decentralized, whether it's from a Web 3 perspective or from an AI perspective, it should be more decentralized. But when quantum kicks in, it will be a totally different play because a lot of the things or the tech that we believe in might not be working anymore. You know, you might need to change, the whole coding uh, mechanism. You might need to have quantum resistant. You just need to have a lot more things in your toolbox to make sure that things can uh, go better. So I'm not sure, really not sure. Maybe Web 10. I'm not sure, but yeah. So but meanwhile, it's still Web 4 to me because AI is still going to be around. Crypto is still going to be around. If quantum kicks in, crypto is not going to be around, or crypto got to pivot, then let it pivot. We will fight with we'll deal with it on another occasion. That's totally okay.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, at the end of the day, no one has a crystal ball, so it's really difficult to predict what the future would be like if quantum computer were to arrive. So finally, final question for you, Andy. What's next for you then? Because you just have a new book, so Web4. Any new projects you're working on? Like any new books you're writing? Because like from what you just told me, you've written like 4 books already. So is there any initiative we should really keep an eye on?
I I I'm actually really thinking about a few things, right? So I might want to come up with a totally open source, decentralized, AI-driven blockchain. Totally open source. I walk the talk. I would, if I'm the architect or the founder or whatever you want to call it, I will not have the majority of the token. You know, I just want to walk the talk and make what make Web4 a working model, right? Because just to be very frank, um, like I said, I started to talk about it 2021. I wrote a book. Actually, I have a PhD paper on this. I have not defended that paper yet, but I just want to make that vision a bit closer to all the builders, right? If we believe that Web3 or crypto should be decentralized, can we all work together to make it decentralized, make it more fair, right? So that everyone can benefit from this technology and not just working on some pump and dump stupid blockchain wallet swap that nobody's using, right? So I just that maybe that could be one of a pet project, that I want to try, you know. But nothing is firm yet, I just think that I would just take my time. It doesn't matter, and in fact I hope someone else from the industry can build something like that, right? And not trying to bluff us with some centralized bullshit and make us think that it's good, right? If we really think that cryptocurrency should be decentralized, then we have to make sure that the decentralization part stays, right? If we do not like fiat and we think that fiat has a lot of bad things, it's all controlled, then we should not like stablecoin, right? So we should not be trying to contradict ourselves day in, day out, right? Keep it simple. If you want it to be decentralized, let's push the decentralized agenda to the next level. That's it, you know. So maybe a new blockchain could be a working product. I'm not sure. I'm still really thinking about it, you know. But meanwhile, I just want to finish my PhD because I have gone through quite a few bits of revision of that paper. And I'm now trying to find a professor or a school that is willing to take it up and so that I can defend it. It's not easy to find a school that I could do that. So fingers crossed. Hopefully something new can come up.
Yeah, good luck to you, Andy, and the whole PhD stuff. But like, thanks for sharing about the basically I agree with you, the whole decentralization aspect, because we know Web3 is quite pretty shit. I just put it that way. Like a lot of shady stuff was going on, especially back in 2021 with all the GameFi and NFT shit. But like, I'll just leave it at that. Like, that's going to do it for today's show. So, Andy, a huge thank you for taking your time to join us today. Like, really enjoy the conversation, and hopefully all of you learned something new about Web4, AI, blockchain, and where this industry could be heading next. If you enjoyed today's discussion, make sure to follow Andy on social media and check out his new book, so Web4, The Age of Autonomous Intelligence, also available now on Amazon. And thank you guys for hanging out with us today. So just a quick reminder, I'm live here every Monday through Friday at 3 a.m. Eastern Time on Roxham TV. We cover Bitcoin, macro, AI, and global markets every single day, and we regularly bring in amazing guests like Andy to share their insights and perspectives. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future interviews or any market update. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. And also, I'll see you guys in tomorrow's show.